What's up guys, welcome back to the channel and another weekly running and training vlog where the main purpose of this video is for you to let me know about your week of training. I want to hear about your successes and I definitely want to hear about your setbacks. And I know a lot of you have raced last weekend, so let me know about that. For example, maybe did you meet your goals? Did you not meet your goals? Did you exceed your goals? Could be any of these. We're also talking about imposter syndrome. And I don't know about you, but I have certainly experienced imposter syndrome over the years in my running, in other areas of my life. And I came across an article in Triathlete magazine. So of course I will link to that article in the show notes below if you want to go ahead and read that. And guys, imposter syndrome isn't just for beginners. Runners of all levels can still experience imposter syndrome. Okay, let me back up for a second because I've got to define imposter syndrome. Perhaps not everyone knows what it is, but it is that feeling. It is that feeling that you get when you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you're a fraud in some aspect of your life. Obviously, we're talking about running. And it really boils down to you doubting yourself, your abilities, your talents, and your accomplishments. I'm sure you have heard some people or heard of people that say, oh, I'm not a real runner. I only run XYZ. So we're going to talk more about it, but I just want to skip right to the end now and just encourage you that if you run, you are a runner. You don't have to run a 5K to be a runner. You don't have to run a 10K to be a runner. If you get out there and you run for a minute, 2 minutes, I don't know, whatever it is you want to do, you are a runner and you need to feel that way. And I know it can be difficult. It can be difficult, especially in this world with all the social media out there. You may be on Strava. In fact, it's highly likely you're on Strava and you're seeing people's workouts day in and day out. You're seeing what they do. And obviously because that content is curated, you're not seeing their weaknesses. You're only seeing what they want you to see. You're only seeing the workouts, or if it's on Instagram, the photos that they want you to see. And when you see that and you find yourself struggling with your confidence about your running, it's very easy to feel like that you're a fraud, that you're alone, that no one else has these same weaknesses that you do. But let me be the first one to tell you today that we all have those same weaknesses. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean they're not there. And weaknesses or not, just like the distance or time you spend running, you are still a runner. And just so you don't feel alone, these feelings happen at every level of our sport. You're going to get to the very top. People that are competing on the world stage, and they are going to have feelings of imposter syndrome. They're going to have feelings that perhaps they are not as good as the people that they're competing against. So let me just drop a few signs of imposter syndrome, things that you can recognize in yourself. And I'm just going to list these off, and the way to fix them are pretty apparent when I tell you what they are. So number one, you persistently doubt yourself. Self-doubt. I tell you, it'll bring you down. It'll bring you down pretty quick. You can train your mind to believe in yourself. You can train your mind to believe that you are the runner that you want to be, or that you have the ability to move in that direction of where you want to go. Number two, you don't focus on your achievements or your accomplishments. You mainly focus on the areas where you think you fall short of your mistakes. But also, I would jump right in here and say that your mistakes, the things that you think are mistakes, are often not mistakes. They are areas of growth. They are areas that you can focus on in order to get better. Now, of course, we have to go back to the first thing where you persistently doubt yourself. Now is the time for you to turn that thing around in your mind and know that you can make lemons out of lemonade. If something doesn't go your way, you know what you have to change in order to make it go your way. And my favorite saying, if you don't get what you want, you change what you want. Okay, the third sign of imposter syndrome is that it's very easy to beat yourself up. It's easy to talk bad about yourself. And perhaps this is the first running video that you have seen, but I'd say that's pretty unlikely. So you have seen this before. You have seen the power of positive self-talk. And by talking to yourself in a positive way, by building yourself up on the inside, that internal monologue, you are going to be able to go so much further than you ever could without it. Now we come into the whole thing of mantras, positive mantras, mind you. So when you're running and you're not feeling like it, you could recite, I'm strong, I'm fast, I'm light on my feet, I've trained for this. If you have any mantras that you use on a regular basis, why don't you go ahead and write them in the comments below so other people can perhaps pick them up and use them, help them along on their way. The fourth telltale sign of imposter syndrome is that you're setting unrealistic goals. Now I would also say that perhaps if you are a new runner, perhaps if you are beginning in your running journey, perhaps it's the lack of experience that could make you set unrealistic goals. You honestly don't know what you are capable of. But let's say you're not that person and you know what you're capable of, but you still set an outlandish goal. So for me, it might be on my next marathon, I want to run under 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now for some people that may not be an outlandish goal, but for me, seeing as I've never run under 2 hours and 30 minutes and I haven't really come close, that is an astronomically absurd goal, and I'm only setting myself up for disappointment by setting that goal for myself. Again, let's just back up one where it's easy to beat yourself up. If you set yourself unrealistic expectations, you're making it easy to beat yourself up. you're making it easy to go hard on yourself. And the fifth telltale sign of imposter syndrome is that you don't take compliments well. It's very easy to take a compliment well. You say thank you. Then internalize that compliment. Use that as fuel to push you to keep moving in the right direction, to keep moving forward with your running achievements. So the funny thing about imposter syndrome is that it persists even when you have concrete data refuting it. So for example, let's go to the extreme and say that someone who runs thinks they are not a runner, and yet they look on their tracking app, probably Strava, and they see that they ran 20 miles last week. But because they are comparing themselves to perhaps somebody else or a standard that isn't where they are at that moment, they don't consider themselves a runner. And that could not be further from the truth. The evidence is there showing you ran 20 miles last week, you're a runner. But it doesn't have to be 20 miles. It could be 5 miles. It could be 2 miles. You're still a runner. It's time to accept where you are in the journey. Accept where you are, then you can move forward. So in our society, imposter syndrome is pretty common, and I think it comes down to a couple of reasons. And that's because a lot of us place our self-worth in others. We want that validation. We want to look at our peers, appreciate what they're doing, and then get that appreciation back. And perhaps if we don't get it, that's when we start inviting in that self-doubt. So when we look outside for this validation, we're looking at someone that is perhaps on another level to us. We can easily tell ourselves that we are not a runner because we are not as good a runner as we would like to be. Because for some reason in our mind, we are not good enough. We aren't the same as somebody else. So that invites in that self-doubt. So now we know if we're focusing on the gap between us and our competitors, the people that we see every day doing running stuff. By running stuff, I mean their training, their races, generally doing things that we would like to do ourselves. If we are not at that place, we start to laser in on our weaknesses. And those weaknesses, when compared against the people that we're looking at, they become more pronounced. And all you can focus on is that comparison. And if we know one thing for sure, it's comparison is the thief of joy. So if you find yourself with imposter syndrome, if there are times when you're just feeling that you're not quite there, even though by all reasonable measures you are, there are a couple things you can do about it. And the first is to own what you're doing. And when I say own what you're doing, own what you are doing. Everyone's going to define being a runner differently. But you shouldn't create that definition of what a runner is based on something that you haven't done. You don't need to create a definition of yourself based on something that somebody else is doing. So this next one is pretty obvious, but it is to change your focus. And when I say change your focus, I want you to take your focus away from people that you look at as competitors, the people that you're measuring yourselves against. You need to shift your focus and move it onto you. Now, that's going to sound pretty selfish, and that's okay. You are allowed to be selfish. In this instance, being selfish is actually going to lead to more happiness. You're going to feel more fulfilled in what you're doing. And when you're happy and when you have a good idea of what you are, based on the evidence that you see in front of you, your training logs, the things you do every day, you're going to be able to improve that much quicker, that much better. So in a nutshell, imposter syndrome, it can really mask your full potential if you let it. Anyway, that's imposter syndrome. So I had a pretty good week of running. On Monday, start off the week very easy with a nice easy run, 9.35 miles, just going out and turning those legs over. Tuesday was a workout day, and this was a solid workout. I ran a total of 10.5 miles, but I also did 4 1.5 mile repeats with 800 meters in between to recover. And that went pretty well. I was able to hit my splits right where I wanted them to be. I did adjust my pace based on the temperature because it was very warm last week. And yeah, it felt really good. Felt really good about that run. Wednesday, after I did that workout, I did take a day off from running, which was a good thing because Thursday was another workout day. Thursday, I ran 9 miles total. And this was a bit stressful because I really didn't have enough time to do this workout as I wanted based on when I woke up and when I had to go to work. But I did run 9 miles total. 8 of those miles were at tempo pace. So I started off by running 1 mile to warm up, and then I knocked out the other 8 miles at tempo pace. And again, my pace was adjusted for the temperature just to make it a little more doable. Friday was a nice running recovery day, 8.24 miles at a super cruisy pace, just nice and easy. Love those runs. Because Saturday was race day. And I kind of decided at the last minute, I only decided a few days before this race that I was going to do it, but I warmed up with, I don't know, about 2.8 miles. Then there was the 5K, and then I cooled down with 3.6 very easy miles. Now I did make a video about that 5K. If you're interested in watching it, I will link to it right up here now. I'll also put a link in the show notes. Sunday, I wanted to do something a little longer. On Sunday, I did wrap up my week with 17.1 miles, and it was rough. Not rough, like I thought I couldn't do it, but my legs were aching. I was still recovering from that 5K. So it was a little harder. My pace was a little slower, and that's okay, but it was just a little more of an effort. I could tell that my legs were a bit sore. Now, funnily enough, I just said I was running a lot slower. My heart rate actually reflected the pace that I was running. So my heart rate was super low for that whole run, but my perceived effort, because of my muscle soreness, it was up there. So that brings my week's total to about 63.76 miles, which is about 102.6 kilometers. Also spent some time on the Peloton. This week I managed to knock out 134.81 miles, which is a shade under 217 kilometers. If this is your first time seeing me, my name's Matt. I post new running videos at least twice a week on YouTube. Monday is the day when I want to hear about your week of running. So make sure you write in the comments and let me know how it went. If you are a runner, why not give this video a thumbs up? It really helps me, it really helps my channel. And of course, subscribe if you're not already. My friends, be kind, be happy, run well, and I'll see you in a couple days.